Hi guys, and welcome to our first flipped classroom. Today we're going to analyze the Sonnet 60 by William Shakespeare. But first of all, I would like you to listen to this sonnet.
Sonnet 60. Like as the waves make towards the pebbled shore, so do our minutes hasten to their end. Each changing place with that which goes before, in sequent toil all forwards do contend. Nativity, once in the main of light, crawls to maturity, wherewith being crowned, crooked eclipses 'gainst his glory fight, and time that gave doth now his gift confound. Time doth transfix the flourish set on youth, and delves the parallels in beauty's brow, feeds on the rarities of nature's truth, and nothing stands but for his scythe to mow. And yet to times in hope my verse shall stand, praising thy worth, despite his cruel hand.
Okay, so here's the sonnet. I won't translate the sonnet throughout this lesson, so I will provide you with a translation. But first of all, I would like to see with you the layout, the structure of the sonnet, that being a typical Shakespearean sonnet, as you can see from here, is divided into 3 quatrain and a final couplet. And being a typical Shakespearean sonnet, of course, we have a typical rhyme pattern, so that goes A, B, A, B, C, D, C, D, E, F, E, F, G, G. Okay, so now we're going to analyze the main themes. So we're going to see the main themes within this sonnet. This is the 60th sonnet, and as you can imagine, basically the main themes of the sonnet, as it was for other sonnets that we studied, is time. So probably it's not a coincidence the fact that this is exactly the 60th sonnet, because it reminds us of the 60 minutes within an hour, of course. In this sonnet, every quatrain, every stanza is a metaphorical description of the passing of time, which is described in different way. How the time affects the human life, so the time passage in human life. But the emphasis actually within the sonnet is given to the loss of beauty by the youth, of course. You know that the first part of the collection of sonnets by Shakespeare is dedicated to a boy, to a fair youth, who again here actually is the protagonist, and the loss of his beauty becomes the protagonist of the sonnet, even if in this very sonnet the speaker looks forward rather than back. So he looks forwards at what is going to happen to the boy over the years. Okay, so this is the first quatrain. So like as the waves make towards the pebbled shore, so do our minutes hasten to their hand. So in the very first 2 lines, we've got an important figure of speech, a simile, in which, of course, the time is compared to the waves on a pebbled shore. So the waves, they go back and forth, and they convey us also, you know, the image of time. But the image of time here is connected to an image of water, which is not positive at all here, but image of water is seen as a sign of death, because time basically actually leads us towards death, and death by water is something unnatural, is something negative, of course. in the last two lines, so each changing place with that which goes before, sequential all forwards to content. So basically here we got two important adjectives, changing and sequent, that convey us an image of repetitions. So the waves, like the times, actually they go one after another, okay, they pass, and actually this passing of the time, this going on of the time, basically reminds us of the infinite circle of life that from birth goes towards death, of course. And this is the theme that we will find in the second quatrain. The second quatrain, in fact, nativity, once in the main of light, crawls to maturity, with being crowned. So in this second quatrain, the first two lines, basically we got the speaker explores the stages of life, the stages of life, from nativity to maturity. So this is the path of man that is born, and then it grows old. But this path towards maturity is seen as something odd, something strange, basically. So crawls, this verb, conveys an unpleasant image that reminds us of a snake. This is actually to convey the image that life is like crawling towards death. It's a path towards death. And then this maturity, actually, this passage, this passage of time, actually, is seen as crooked eclipses against his glory is glorified. So the eclipses against the glory of maturity obscures something. So this adjective crooked evokes the image of an old man, first of all, and then the eclipses, they actually obscure the glory of maturity, actually convey us the image of a light, the light of life, of course, that is obscured, and the fact that glory begins to fade, the glory in this case of the young boy, of course. So in this passage we can also find the fear of the darkness and the anguish of the humankind before an invisible reality, that is to say, the reality of death, what's beyond death, okay, that can be felt but not be seen, of course. And then in the last line of this, and so aging, growing old, is like a cloud that hides the sun, of course. And in the last line of this second quatrain, time is personified as a terrible god. So time that gives and then takes back his own gift. And here we got the paradox of the present, of course, the present of time, which is bound to turn into the past. So the present will always become the past. Then we got the third quatrain. In the third quatrain, again, the protagonist is time. Time here actually acts in a very violent way. So time here transfixes, dulls the beauty's brow, feeds on the rarities of nature's truth. So all these verbs actually emphasize the metamorphosis of the human beauty because of time. So and actually here basically the speaker, Shakespeare, is trying to describe how repulsive aging, growing old is, and the metamorphosis of human beauty, how repulsive it might be, it can be, of course. And in the last lines of this quatrain, we also have an important, a classical image, that of the death that is seen with his sight, ready to attack the beauty of man, of human life. And actually, here we got the climax of the poem, in which, you know, the existence is seen like the anticipation of a dark vacuum. So life is something that will lead to death, that is something unknown. But in the final couplet, actually, the tone changes. First of all, because it is introduced by this turn, this volta, and yet, so that gives a balance to the issues explained before. And then, and yet 2 times, in hope my verse shall stand. Okay, so here comes the resolution of the poem, of course, the resolution of the poem, in which the poetry becomes the protagonist. And in fact, here we got the personification of the poetry. Times, in hope my verse shall stand. So the tone changes, it becomes more positive, and the poet actually will be interested in analyzing, so not in his own fame, but in the survival of the beauty of the beloved. So through poetry, okay, his beloved will not lose his beauty anymore, okay, because through art, through his own poems, the boy will be beautiful forever. Okay, so poetry is the only means. Poetry stands against the passing of the time and the oblivion that death will carry along with it. That is to say, that poetry is the only means through which the beauty of the boy will survive death. Okay, so to conclude, we can say that in the mechanism of time that leads to death, art, and poetry, of course, looks like a clock that shows the images, the episodes of the eternal flux of time. The youth, which is the object of the poems and is subject to times, sometimes becomes the poem itself and overcomes time, becoming eternal within the same poem it belongs to. So basically, in the end, we can say that poetry is the only thing that can preserve the beauty that we are going to lose because of, you know, the cyclical path of life. But through the poems, through art, we can get beauty immortal. That's the only way through which we can become immortal. And this is basically the message of the poem. Okay, guys, we are finished for today. Thank you for following me, and we're going to see each other onto the next flipped lesson. Thank you, and bye bye.